We all know California has a massive housing crisis, right? It feels like this huge, unsolvable problem. But what if a really powerful solution was hiding in plain sight, maybe even in your own backyard? Today we're diving into a state law that could totally transform our neighborhoods, one single-family lot at a time.
I want you to just imagine this for a second. You own a home, a standard single-family lot, and suddenly you have the power to turn that one property into 4 separate homes. I mean, that sounds revolutionary, doesn't it? It's an idea that could create a whole new stream of income, build incredible wealth for your family, and add desperately needed housing, all without tearing down the neighborhood.
So how on earth is this even possible? Well, the answer is in a pretty groundbreaking piece of legislation called Senate Bill 9, or as most people call it, SB9. Let's break down exactly what this law does and why, for some people, it is such a huge deal.
At its heart, SB9 is actually pretty simple. It says that if you own a home in a single-family zone, you can potentially build up to 2 main homes on that lot. And then, for each of those homes, you can add a smaller accessory dwelling unit, an ADU. So you do the math, that's a total of 4 potential homes on a piece of land that, for decades, was zoned for just 1.
Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting. The process. Traditionally, if you wanted to build more homes, you were in for a long fight. It was called a discretionary review. Think of it like a high-stakes job interview where you have to charm a local committee, you got to face angry neighbors at public hearings, and navigate all sorts of political drama. SB9 throws that out the window and replaces it with ministerial approval. This is way more like getting your driver's license at the DMV. If you check all the boxes on the list, if you meet all the objective, written-down rules, you get the stamp. It's an administrative process, not a political one. And that changes everything.
But here's the catch, and it is a huge one. Where you live matters a lot. To really get why, we're going to look at 2 different communities right here in Los Angeles County, Altadena and Pacific Palisades. You'll see how this one law has created 2 completely different realities for homeowners.
And wow, does this chart lay out the divide? Over in Altadena, which is part of unincorporated LA County, the process is streamlined. It's clear. But then you look at Pacific Palisades, a totally different universe. It's inside the city of LA, and it's in the super-sensitive coastal zone. So projects there get bogged down in the complex Coastal Commission review, a process that can add years and tons of uncertainty. Then, after recent wildfires, that gap became a chasm.
And this quote, man, it says it all. After the fires, local leaders got the power to ban SB9 in high-risk burn areas. And in Pacific Palisades, the mayor did exactly that, completely shutting it down. Meanwhile, just a few miles away in Altadena, homeowners still have full access to SB9. You can see how this creates a massive advantage for property owners in one community over the other.
So you see, these policy differences aren't just some abstract political debate. They have massive, real-world effects on a homeowner's financial future, on their quality of life. Let's look at what this actually means for you, the individual property owner.
Okay. Let's just talk about the money, because the numbers here are pretty staggering. In a place like Altadena, brand new rental units can go for anywhere between, say, $2,800 and $4,500 a month. If you build out a full 4-unit property, you could be looking at up to $216,000 in rental income every single year. I mean, that's not just extra cash, that is a life-changing financial engine.
And it's not just about the rental income. The very act of developing your property fundamentally transforms its value. See, appraisers stop looking at just the house that's there now. They start looking at the potential of the lot. Homeowners who've actually gone through with SB9 projects are reporting their property values jumping by 25, even 40%. That is a huge leap in personal equity.
But you know what? The benefits go way beyond the bank account. SB9 makes multi-generational living a real possibility, letting families keep their aging parents or adult kids close by, but still in their own private space. It helps older folks age in place, giving them a new income stream to rely on, and by adding homes inside existing neighborhoods, it's a much more sustainable way to grow, and it helps cut down on those killer commutes.
Okay, so the potential is obviously huge, but how does it actually happen? How do you go from a lawn to a legacy? Let's walk through the actual playbook for an SB9 project in a place like Altadena, where the path is nice and clear.
The whole thing is really broken down into 5 clear stages. First is the pre-application, where you just check to make sure your property is eligible. Easy enough. Next, you prep the application, getting surveys and plans drawn up. Then comes the key step, the county review.
That's the 60 to 90-day ministerial process we talked about, the one without the political drama. Once you're approved there, it's on to standard building permits, and then finally construction. It's a clear roadmap, not some open-ended maze you can get lost in.
And the timeline, this is where SB9 really flexes its muscles. A typical project can be done in about 16 months, sometimes as fast as 8. Now compare that to the 2, 3, maybe even more years it can take for a traditional project to get through all those public hearings and discretionary reviews. That kind of speed and predictability, it's a total game changer for homeowners.
Of course, we have to be realistic. This isn't magic, and it isn't free. There are some very real costs involved. You might need to upgrade your electrical panel or your sewer lines. You'll probably have to add parking, and yep, your property taxes and your insurance costs are going to go up. A successful project means you have to plan for all these costs right from the very beginning.
So let's zoom out. What does all of this mean for the future? We've seen how one single law can create these dramatically different outcomes for people who live just a few miles apart. But what's the bigger trend here? What's the takeaway?
Well, the key thing to understand is that the state of California seems really committed to this path. All the political momentum is behind policies that boost the housing supply using these kinds of streamlined objective approval processes. And that suggests SB9 isn't just a temporary fad. It feels like a long-term shift in how California is thinking about growth. And that really leaves us with this one big final question. For generations, the single-family street has been the bedrock of the California dream. But our needs are changing. How we live, how our families are structured, what we want from our community. SB9 offers a totally new vision, one of gentle density, of more flexible living. It really challenges all of us to think about what our neighborhoods could become. What is the future of the single-family street? It's something we'll all be figuring out together.